I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. Elevation, protocol, rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law. Surrounding myself with excellence, that's what I saw. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. This is the elevation, protocol, rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law. Surrounding myself with excellence, that's what I saw. This is the elevation, protocol, rising above the chaos, taking control. My values not negotiable, my worth is my law. Surrounding myself with excellence, that's what I saw. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. Bridges to greatness, demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls, I'm building bridges to greatness. Demanding excellence, no time for complacence. Act right or act out, the choice is always clear. My presence is my power, my standards draw the line here. My standards draw the line here. My standards draw the line here. I'm not building walls.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Friday. That's where we are today. Man, you look, time be flying. Days start blending together. You start wondering what's going on. But no, we're on Friday. I'm hearing some stuff going on media, so I'm going to be covering some of this stuff on Monday. Ironically, Donald Trump allegedly promoted the Sharpie pen. I'll be talking about that on another day. But really, he was the issue was that he was discussing in the middle of the press conference about Iran. He was discussing about how he noticed the $1,000 per pin that it costs for them to buy the pins that are being used for the president to sign the pins and then have the pins be um, given away to other people. And he reduced the cost of the Sharpie pen down to $5 a pin by negotiating with the um, Sharpie company that was selling all of the pins that the president signs for the executive order. Now, from based on what Donald Trump claims is that he didn't change companies. He all he did was he just took the Sharpie logo off of it and then had the pin authenticated with the White House information on it, which makes it more of an official White House pin, which allows for his ability to then, sign off on things and then give them out as um, commemorative moments that this is the pin that Donald Trump signed X, Y, and Z executive order. 5,000 pins instead of giving them out at $1,000 a pin, which is $50,000. He would be giving out 5,000 pins at $5,000, which is far cheaper than what the White House was originally paying for these pins, simply because it comes from the White House. I'm like, wow. Now, how does this play relevance to tonight's show? Well, tonight we're going to be talking about the Wall Street secret to love. So we're going to be talking about how using um, investment tactics in relationships can benefit your ability to improve your return on your romantic investments. So a little bit of a spin. DHS is still shut down. Tax season's about 2.5 weeks away from being wrapped up. We're looking at uh, the Iran bombings are still occurring, but there was negotiations. I have not heard of a truce as of yet, but allegedly they're supposed to be wrapping things up. But that does not mean that the war is over anytime soon. As soon as I get a response as to when the war comes to a halt, that's when I'll be able to tell you guys. Now, um, we're live 7 nights a week, and while we do not let the sun rise without going live, we do not always start on time, but we ask you guys to like and subscribe, and then we also ask you guys to hit that notification button, and potentially, if you have the ability to, go check out the membership, because while we're adding stuff to the membership on a regular basis, all of the details behind all of the concepts that I cover is put into the membership and archived in the membership. So a lot of the things that you guys hear on this show is going to be on the YouTube channel in its archive in the membership. So it's always a good idea for you guys to go and check these things out. So while we're live 7 nights a week, we have a different concept or a different topic every night of the week. Typically, all of them theme around the ability to change the decisions that you make so that those decisions can improve the way you make, save, and invest money. But one of the first things we do on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is talk about business and finance. And in that scenario, we start the top of the week with Monday discussing how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. After that, we get into Tuesday, different ways to make money, save money, invest money. Saving money is also budgeting money, where to put the money. So we're going to be talking about this Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the dividend rotation strategy for April and May, giving you guys a heads up on which stocks we're going to be paying attention to for our dividend rotation strategy, and for any people utilizing the core satellite strategy. Beyond that, we're looking at different countries around the world to invest in, which it happens on Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about different places to live as well. But we also talk about, from what I understand, we have coming up in upcoming shows the ability to set up offshore banking and non-residential banking and international banking ways where you can create an easier way to navigate your finances and protect your assets. So what we do is transition everything to a capability for you to be able to change the way you navigate your life. Now, after Wednesday, that's when things really get heated because we start talking about on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday relationship topics, negotiation skills, personal development, self improvement, uh, socialization, building your brand. Then we discuss things to the magnitude of uh, promotions, raises, retirement, and severance packages. And after we've gone through all of these things, then we start touching base on other topics to the magnitude of why it's important for you to build your 20-year plan. And actually, I just come to understand tomorrow we're going to be discussing why it's important for you to build that up to a 30-year plan, where the 20-year plan is a good cuspus to settle it down. But a 30-year plan could give you the full totality of what you're looking for. Because if you're 30 or 40 years old and you spend 30 years on your future, as you put it together, should be able to reach the ability to give you another 30 or 40 years of capital to spend in spite of inflation. So one of the things that's really important, because like we've talked about annuities, we've talked about mutual funds, we understand that Roth IRAs and 401ks and all of these things have abilities to sell your assets and pull the money out. um, there's still scenarios where, while yes, tax deferred, and yes, you can make a decent quantity of money over a period of time, there are still other areas where, like with a brokerage account, that isn't tax deferred. If you're operating on a high enough percentage level, opportunity cost, you could potentially make more money off of a taxed brokerage account than what you would off of a tax deferred Roth IRA or 401k, and still be able to, especially if it's a 100% dividend paying brokerage account, be able to live off of the dividends. Where the concern from the annuities and the mutual funds was if you would be paid enough money or have enough money to sell the stocks to live off of the principal for the remainder of life. The fact is that with a 100% dividend backed brokerage account, you would be able to just live off of the dividends without having to sell any stocks, which prevents from triggering taxation, because annuities and mutual funds both have taxation. Now, all of these things are very fantastic things that we think about as we start moving forward. And that's why when tomorrow we start talking about building your 30-year plan, we're going to be talking about a lot more things in addition to what we talked about with your ability to build your 20-year plan. So all of this plays into tonight's show because, like I said, we're using Wall Street secrets to work our way through love. And your ability to find the right person to spend the rest of your life with requires you to be able to change what you're looking for and change how you perform, not for the sake of them, but for the sake of you. Because you cannot expect a higher quality person of value to entertain you if you do not carry yourself with a higher level of value, right? So, as we talked about yesterday, your inner value, your core values is based on your integrity, your personality, and other such things. It is important for us to navigate these dynamics to a magnitude where your value, as you are, your core beliefs, your core drive, your core ambitions, is emphasized in a higher magnitude, which allows for your capabilities to um, reach a higher plateau, right? So, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into tonight's show. And I gotta say, we don't have as much today because we've touched on a lot of things, but we've got enough to say today that, in spite of all of the lag that we're going through right now, we are going to be able to walk through tonight's show and reach the cusp of what we're trying to accomplish. So, I don't know if you guys have recalled this, but I mean, we've all been sold a romantic dream, right? That love is some magical force that defies all logic, a spark that just happens between two people who are meant to be, right? They're quote unquote meant to be, right? Now, what if I told you that the most successful lasting relationships have less in common with a fairy tale and more in common with the stock market? It's a wild thought, but the truth is, love is a market. And dating apps try to capitalize on that market for profit. It's governed by clear principles of value, risk, and transparency. And understanding this Wall Street mindset is the single biggest predictor of who stays together and who burns out. So, have you ever just felt completely baffled by dating? I mean, you go on a date, you swipe on apps, you meet people, nothing sticks. You see other couples that just work and you can't figure out their secret. Feels like you're playing a game without knowing the rules, right? And that is a very frustrating scenario that is very real for a lot of people. It's so easy to feel like dating is just a broken, chaotic mess of ghosting and disappointment. But here's the secret: it's not broken, it's just running on a second set of economic principles that you weren't never taught. So, this isn't about being cold or transactional. I don't want you guys to do that. It's about being smart. It's about understanding the hidden forces that drives attraction, commitment, and long-term happiness. So you want to think about it like a savvy investor doesn't just throw money at a stock because it has a flashy logo. They look at the fundamentals, they look at the history, and a savvy dater, someone who wants a real return on their emotional investment, not to mention their financial investment, has to do the same thing. So if you guys are ready to stop gambling with your heart and start making intelligent investments in your love life, I want you guys to stay with me. Now, the first rule of any market is value. In finance, a stock has a price based on perceived value, its earnings, its growth potential, its stability. In love, that market people have value too. Now, before you cringe, let's be clear, it is not a cold calculation of someone's net worth or a 1 to 10 rating on looks. I understand these are red pill, blue pill agendas that typically keep people distracted from the true magnetic points. That's going to be an amateur mistake. True value, the kind that gives you an amazing return on investment, is much deeper. In relationship terms, the single most valuable asset a person has is a secure attachment style. A lot of people call this clingy, but I mean, the attachment theory is going to first developed by psychologist John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth that explains that our first relationships with caregivers create a blueprint for how we handle love for the rest of our lives. And this blueprint, our attachment style, dictates how we deal with intimacy and conflict. A person with a secure attachment style is what is called a blue chip stock of the dating world because they're both comfortable with closeness as well as independence, self sustainability. They trust easily. They say what they need without drama and can rely on others without being super clingy. Their relationships tend to be stable and fulfilling because they operate from a place of emotional balance. At their core, they believe I'm okay and you're okay too. Research consistently shows that secure adults are happier in their relationships and handle stress better. Now, one of the things that we're going to understand is that a lot of men, uh, 35 and up, You know, some of us that are 30 or 25, 28, we start realizing that our shit's not together right now. We don't have the financial security that we need to be able to support a family. We find flaws in our existence that prevent us from being perceived as, in our own opinions, valuable to the partner that we would hope to attract. Now, there's two ways that a man would handle that. One, a man who does not hold as much value in himself would aim lower than he's already forced to by society, because men date down and women date up. But if a man believes that his value is just that much lower, um, a man on a middle income scenario of 40 to 50,000 a year could find himself in a position where, instead of him dating a woman of value on that same level, he will be dating a woman that is beneath his expectations, regardless of what her income is, beneath his expectations, because he would believe and be treated by women that are on the same economic level, on the same social level, that he is beneath her because he exactly on her level. Now, one of the things I tell people on a regular basis is that a man that is on a woman's level is a man that can do for the woman everything that that woman can do for herself. So if she can pay for her bills, he can pay for her bills. If she can buy the things that she wants, or at least some of the things that she needs, and he can buy those same things. If she can provide for herself and he can provide that exact same quality to her, that man is on her level. Women don't want that. Women date up. Women want a man that can give to her what she could not give to herself. The Diary of a Mad Black Woman and I Can Do Bad All by Myself, From Waiting to Exhale, have a lot of women believing a false narrative that, true, you can struggle and suffer all by yourself, but you are not succeeding all by yourself if you have a partner that is taking the weight off of you, right? If he takes any level of responsibility off of your plate, that is something you no longer have to focus on, which lightens your load. So we have to understand that the value is not just how much money you make, and the value is not just how attractive you are. Now, the next thing you have is the more volatile access. Someone with anxiety attachment style desperately wants closeness but is terrified of being abandoned. They'll overanalyze every text, need constant reassurance, and feel like they have to earn love. Now, this creates a needy roller coaster dynamic. And on the other end is the avoidant attachment style. These people value their independence, so much so that they seem emotionally uh, closed off, and they see the emotional closeness as a threat, right? So too much closeness, a problem. They might prefer casual flings or finding partners who keep them at a safe distance, people that are too busy to really uh, uh, bring meaning to the relationship, because intimacy just feels smothering to them. So, why is a secure style so valuable? Because it's a foundation for a healthy return on your emotional investment. A relationship with a secure person is built on trust and respect. Conflicts get handled like adults instead of turning into huge fights. Investing your time and heart in a securely attached person is like investing in a stable, well run company. The long term dividends are huge: happiness, growth, and a partnership that actually works. Now, on the flip side, investing in a partner with a highly insecure style is like buying a risky speculative stock. It might be exciting at first, but the volatility almost always leads to a crash. Now, you spend more energy managing drama, calming their anxieties, or chasing them down than you would do actually building a life together. Now, a lot of people have been taught that you have to fight for love, and that's not true. Love just happens. You're attracted to somebody, be it physical or emotional, happens, right? Nobody has to force that to happen. You can learn to love somebody by practicing to choose to stick with that person. But your ability to be physically attracted to somebody is not something that you have to force upon yourself outside of uh, past trauma, recovering from past trauma. Um, so being in a loving relationship is a practice. It's not something that's forced upon you. So you're not supposed to have to fight for it. And what people misunderstand is that the dynamic of being in a loving relationship is that you are not fighting for, well, hold on, let me rephrase that. You are not fighting with your partner to make the relationship work. You are supposed to be on behalf of your partner, fighting against society to keep your relationship safe. And that's a dynamic that a lot of people have lost. Uh, Men are supposed to fight against other men to keep their woman from being taken by another man, not abducted, not uprooted against her will, but convinced to voluntarily walk away from her man. Men are being taught in 2026 that they are supposed to fight against that. No, we're not. If she wants to go, she can go. If she wants to go, then she wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. I actually seen a guy, it was a clip on social media where some guy walked up and started talking to this chick that was standing next to her boyfriend. And he started trying to get the girl's number. Dude standing there like, nope, and just let the situation happen. Now, a lot of times when this clip came up, the guy was fighting off the other dude to keep the dude from getting his girl's number, while the girl was willing to engage the guy and offer the number. You're not able, because if the man would not have been there, the woman would have gave her number. If the woman was interested in the man, the woman would have connected with that man behind the first man, the boyfriend's back. And if the woman was willing to have an affair with that man, she would have cheated on her boyfriend without his knowledge. So because the man was there, he may have delayed her ability to be unfaithful. But the fact is that if she didn't want to stay with the man that she's with, him fighting off someone else is not going to change that, right? We're supposed to protect our women from danger. We're supposed to protect our women from unnecessary, inappropriate men that are deliberately trying to look up girls' skirts and steal their purses and stuff to that effect. But our girls are also supposed to be modestly and appropriately dressed. They're not supposed to be showing off all of their assets so that men could look at the way she did this to herself. And then we got to beat up all the guys that are looking at her. That's not what this is about. So uh, the observation is clearly wrong. And we're investing ourselves in the ability to fight for a toxic relationship. We're not supposed to be managing that drama. And then the anxiety that she has of being afraid of if we're cheating because we came home from work 20 minutes late, we got caught in traffic, we got detoured by a construction site, and now all of a sudden she's accusing us of having an affair straight from work. God forbid we're working on one of those jobs that has no limits to the hours that you can work, and we can go from a set schedule to working extra hours in that day abruptly. We might get offered 15 minutes before we get off from work extra time, and we take that time because we need the money, counting the extra overtime hours that we're getting, and we don't think about calling our partner and saying, hey, I got to work late today. And if we do, it happens on a regular basis and she swears to God we're cheating. That anxiety that they have, that we have to soothe, that to modern society, and I see Michael's comment, to modern society, women now have the dating apps where they're GPS tracking their boyfriends. And why are we doing that? When men GPS track women call that toxic and clingy and controlling. But when women do it, it's securing their assets. It's not securing your assets. If you can't trust your partner to be where he or she says they're going to be, you can't trust your partner. If you can't trust your partner to be faithful, you can't trust your partner. You shouldn't be in a relationship where you can't trust your partner. Now, Michael says, when I was young, I would fight you for her. Nowadays, I'll pay you to take her. Michael, look, I ain't paying for shit. If back in the day, okay, up until the first, well, no, the only time I was ever cheated on, up until that moment, uh, I would not fight to stop my girl from communicating with other people because I trusted her not to do it. Once she done it, that was it for me, and I didn't go back. No other female after that ever cheated on me, or at least none that I know of. The relationship would end before affairs would begin. Who they smash after we break up got nothing to do with me. Know how soon it was after that? Even if it was one of my homeboys, I didn't care. Now, some people have an emotional attachment to their girl. They haven't let go yet. They probably were on a break and they were thinking they were going to get back together. Their homeboy smashed their girl. Bro, if I don't want you, I'm not going back. So if one of my homeboys smashed my ex, it is what it is because that's my ex. That's not mine, right? I'm a high five you like, you know, did you experience what I experienced? You know what I mean? And to the magnitude of, usually when I see them after the fact, the quality of the person has depreciated significantly. And this isn't a brag or a boast of myself. It is an observation. The way I used to keep them always had appropriate clothes on, and then their hair was always kept good, their makeup was kept good, you know their health and well-being was kept good. And then after they left, after I no longer had anything to do with them, now they're gaining a bunch of weight, their injuries, they hair all over their head, they just don't care about life anymore. And it doesn't matter what happened in their life after I left that led to that. The magnitude was is that when I was with them, I was shielding them from the chaos that they went through after I was gone. We grown completely apart, and we grow apart quickly. It's not just one of those situations where I'm just like, oh no, no, that's it, it's done. And so I've never fought to keep a girl. If you wanted my girl, go ahead, go ahead. If my girl asked me for permission, I say, well, no. If we're gonna be serious, you're not doing that. But when you do that, that's it. That's it. That's the end of the road right there. Now, these days, I'm not gonna pay you to take her. I'm just gonna leave without her. That's the other option because I'm not. I understand your logic though, because back in the day, you put so much effort into trying to keep her, and now you put so much effort into trying to get rid of her. I've recognized that I don't have to do anything. I can just stand there long enough to let her go. If she didn't want to go, she would stay with me. I told y'all this like a year or so ago that I was raised on this mentality that if you're not in my car when I put it in gear, your ass is getting left. And I typically back into parking spaces so you don't have enough time for me to back out of the driveway. I'm literally leaving your ass. So once I leave, what you do is up to you. If you want to stay with me, you will be in that car when I leave. You're not picking up dudes' phone numbers. You're not exchanging contacts. You're not NFC touching phones and exchanging contacts through Bluetooth connection or nothing like that. If we're together, we're together. If we're not together, we're not together. But I'm not going to be your in between quill. You know what I mean? In between your last sequel and your next, I'm not that. He said, if you are busy following your plan, you will barely notice when she is gone. Special shout out to FX Trading. First of all, that is the perfect truth. If you're following your 20-year plan or your 30-year plan, you're sticking to it. If you had room in your life for her to be there, if she deviates from your plan, you are not missing out on nothing because you gave her the opportunity to be there, but your success is not contingent to her presence. Therefore, if she left, it would not matter to you because you are going to be successful anyway. If you're making fiscally responsible decisions, you're not wasting money on her while she's there. If she leaves, you're not going to lose out on an income. Whatever income that went towards her necessities can now be redirected into your brokerage account, building your success. So you're probably actually going to profit from her getting out of your face unless she is contributing to offset what you do for her. Right? So if you're breaking even, on her investing in you and you investing in her, and y'all are able to grow together financially. When she leaves, you're not losing out. But if you were paying for her, you're losing money while she's there, especially if she's not paying for you. And when she leaves, you actually are only going to notice that you got more money lying around because she's gone. So he's definitely right. So the return on your investment in these situations are often negative because you end up more drained and hurt than when you started. And a lot of the times you end up with far less resources. Whether you've lost property that got destroyed in her presence, you lost capital because you wasted it on her during her time there. You're losing out on more than what you are gaining from the fact that she was there when she was there. So how do you spot value? You have to become a valued investor. And this has to be in your dating life. Like Warren Buffett, you ignore the market hype and you do your homework. You have to look past the shiny objects, the job, the car, the perfect Instagram, the hot body, the skimpy outfits, the fake hair, fake nails, fake makeup, and search for the real signs of a secure attachment style. So, how did they talk about their exes? I know that we was joking about this like 2 years ago when Mr. Pibbs was talking about creating a dating contract, but I created the dating contract, and actually I have to go in there and amend the document and put in an NDA clause and a no disparagement clause in there so that you guys got a template, because an NDA clause is a non-disclosure agreement, and a no disparagement clause means that you can't say nothing negative about me. Now I understand that in the court of law that any unethical or illegal can potentially be bypassed by the NDA or the non-disclosures, depending on how the contracts are written. So if you go take these contracts as a template to a lawyer of some sort and have them evaluate it, they can reinforce that contract, and they will make sure that you fill in the blanks thoroughly so that everything works the way it needs to work. And then when you get your partner to sign that in the dating phase, you can guarantee that they're not going to fuck you over. They're not going to run off with any extra shit. If they destroy anything that they wasn't supposed to destroy, or take anything that they wasn't supposed to take, they have to reimburse you for the replacement cost of those items, which needs to be put into the clause. I just thought about that just now, but you need to put that into there as a clause, that if they break anything on their way out, or if they take anything that they weren't supposed to take on their way out, that they have to replace it at current market value. That doesn't help with family heirlooms, but if it was a $10,000 ring that they stole and it would be replaced at $10,000 to $15,000, that's $10,000 to $15,000 that they owe in breach of contract. And you literally would be taking a civil action for breach of contract for the exchangement of assets, right? Not about, oh, well, we didn't sleep together enough during the relationship. That's not important. What matters is that when y'all broke up, the car that you bought is listed under the things that you keep. So when she leaves without that car. That's what matters. Right? So um having that no disparagement clause, when women talk bad about a man and try to shame them on social media, try to bash them in front of their friends and family members, insult them, even as a joke. The no disparagement clause means you can't say nothing negative about me. Now, me being if I was an abusive boyfriend, speaking the truth is speaking the truth. Reporting a crime is reporting a crime. So outside of reporting a crime, like physical abuse. If you just want to say that I'm bad in bed, that's disparagement. That breaches the contract. If you want to say that I'm a dumb person or broke or whatever the case may be, that is disparagement. You're talking bad about me. Doesn't matter if I don't make enough money to satisfy your expectations. You're not supposed to talk about that. Non-disclosure agreement and no disparagement. So you're not supposed to disclose the contents of the relationship, but you're also not supposed to speak negatively unnecessarily about your partner. So outside of reporting a crime or a clear concern of safety that is legally protected, you have your ability to put in there within reason, where you're not violating people's First Amendment constitutional rights, no disparagements. But if they sign a contract, they signed a contract. And that's what it is. And you want to make sure that you get a notary that's a neutral notary, one that doesn't know either one of you. Go to your local bank, go to especially if y'all don't bank at the same bank, y'all can go to a third party bank, but don't have one of their friends notarize the document or anything to that effect, because that can negatively impact your ability to succeed. You want to get a legit person to notarize that document. And then, since y'all are going to have the practice of updating this document every year, y'all can go to different notaries and have it signed by different individuals, the updated version of the document, where you can ultimately, at the point of breach of contract, if the signature ever becomes a concern where somebody denies signing any of the contracts, you can bring all of the notaries that have signed in the past to come and testify that they identify the person who signed as the person in the courtroom, which verifies the fact that that is a binding contract. Now, beyond that, you need more details. You got to go talk to your lawyers about that. But when we start talking about how does a woman talk about her exes, do they take some responsibility in their breakups, or is everything else or everyone else always the villain? Is everything the other person's fault, where she left because he fucked up? She didn't do anything wrong, he fucked up, right? How do they handle a simple disagreement? Do they try to understand you, or do they shut down and get defensive? Do they argue you down to compel you to do what they want? Do they manipulate you with puppy dog eyes and whining and complaining until you give them what they ask for? Do they make you miserable until you satisfy their expectations? You got to ask yourself that. Are they consistent, or do they vanish for days and then reappear with a "you up" text after a while, where they ghosted you, they haven't been communicating with you for a while, and then they hit you up in the middle of the night just to see what you're doing? Do they have solid long-term friendship with people that are not dudes? Right? That right there is a huge tell. This doesn't mean that you write people off. Attachment styles can change, but you have to be realistic. Starting a relationship with someone deeply insecure, hoping that you can fix them, is like buying a failing company and banking on a miracle turnaround. It's possible, but it will drain you. Just like, I think it was last Sunday, the guy that got on the show and was talking about how his partner was addicted to cocaine, and he had been trying for a long period of time to help her recover from it, but he was burnt out, and he had this problem with this other dude that was also addicted to cocaine that kept aiding her in trying to recover. And it almost felt like competition, what I was hearing. And but he found her like this. You don't find a person broken, try to fix them, and then when it fails, you blame them. First and foremost, at the end of the day, that was too much pressure to put on himself. And it was an immense quantity of pressure to put on the other person, because she would now be performing for the sake of the relationship, not for the sake of her own personal recovery, which is two different dynamics. A smart investor protects their capital. So your emotional capital is your most precious resource. Investments require you to invest it where you're most likely to see a healthy compounding return. That's why I gave you guys all of those stock options that hold healthy compounding returns. Every investor knows that where there's a market, there's going to be some risk. The pain of a breakup, the sting of some rejection, those are all forms of market risk. A successful investor doesn't avoid risk. That's impossible, but they learn how to manage the risk. A lot of healthy investors take risk on as a challenge, but they only take on the risk for the clearly observed reward. Getting into a relationship with a volatile person doesn't give you more of a reward than getting into a relationship with a stable person. When you understand that the return is going to be the same regardless of the investment, you want to put up the least quantity of investment to get the same quantity of return, not the other way around. Because the loss of investment based on the return, if the return is the same, whether you put up 1,000 or you put up 100, you might want to put up 10, because if the return is going to be the same, why put up 1,000? It's the same thing with effort in a relationship. If the longevity of the relationship is the longevity of the relationship, the difference between reasonable effort to manage that relationship versus extreme Romeo and Juliet, baby boy style, Mike Tyson punch out style, Chris Brown style, R. Kelly style, relationships, the chaos, the Ray Rice in the elevator, the chaos, you know, instead of that, instead of the Will Smith, chaos, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm talking about a lot of toxic relationships right now. You want to pay attention to having a more docile and cooperative relationship that doesn't require as much effort to make it work. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to go above the normal standard of performance in order to show value to your partner, but it should not have to be work. It should not have to be a base level of performance that is above the normal expectations of performance. Now, in love, this is going to mean that you need to understand two key ideas: loss aversion and diversification. Diversification does not necessarily mean multiple partners. So I just want to put a stop to that real quick. Now, first, we're going to talk about loss aversion. And this is going to be a powerful quirk in our brains. This was discovered by psychologist Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, that says the pain of losing something feels about twice as bad as the pleasure of gaining that exact same thing. So in the stock market, this is why people cling to a losing stock for far too long. They can't stand the idea of taking the loss. So they just hope that it'll bounce back, even as it continues to sink. I don't know if this sounds familiar for you, but it should. Because loss aversion is why men stay in bad, unfulfilling, and even toxic relationships. Women do it too. 10 to 30% of women leave men or men leave women. On average, between the 70% of uneducated women and 90% of educated women, on average, between the two types, you have about 80% of the time women will leave. It doesn't matter why. Out of the 10% of men that leave with educated women and 30% of men that leave with uneducated women, about 20% of men leave. Doesn't matter why. What matters is 80% of men stay in a bad, unfulfilling, and even toxic relationship due to loss aversion. The fear of what you'll lose: companionship, a shared history, the future you imagine, the quantity of money you invested in this person, all of the bills that you racked up because of this person that y'all might have been paying together, and now you're not going to be able to afford to pay it on your own. It feels so huge that it paralyzes you. You'd rather stick with a familiar misery than face a sharp, unknown pain of loss. And you've seen it happen. Maybe you've even done it before. You're in a relationship that's clearly not working, but the thought of ending it is terrifying. What if I never find someone else, right? I've already put so much time into this, right? That's the sunk cost fallacy teaming up with lost aversion to keep you stuck in that relationship. Loss aversion is the biggest problem in financial trading. Loss aversion is the biggest problem in romantic dating. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are definitely correct. So, how does a smart dater manage this? First, you have to see loss aversion for what it is: a feeling, not a fact. So instead of asking, what am I losing by ending this? You want to ask, what am I gaining? Because you're going to be gaining some freedom. You're going to be gaining the chance to find someone who actually makes you happy. You're going to gain your life back. You're going to gain peace of mind back. You're going to gain the assets that you're wasting on this person. You're going to preserve the resources that haven't been lost due to this person. When you frame it as a gain, the decision gets a lot clearer. Now, the second tool is going to be diversification. No sane investor puts every penny into one stock. That's how you get wiped out. Instead, they build a portfolio: stocks, bonds, real estate. So if one area tanks, the other cushions the blow. If your life, your romantic relationships, is just one stock in your portfolio of happiness, then your other assets, your friends, your family, your hobbies, your career, and your own personal growth, that's where everything else comes in. So if you make your partner your entire world, you are taking on catastrophic risk. If that relationship ends, your whole world collapses. You haven't just lost a partner, you've lost your entire identity. So people with secure attachment styles are naturally good at this. They keep strong friendships and interests uh, without the ability to depend solely on their partner. So not only are they going to have better partners, but it's also going to give them a support system when things get rocky. We have a problem within our American culture is that we do not have a family oriented culture anymore. It's every person for themselves. And a lot of the feminist movement encourages women to be toxic towards their men or leave their men and go and be single because you can do all that all by yourself, go girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. But the problem with that is that a woman will lose a good man for the sake of the feminist movement. And then at 40 years old, be lonely, wondering why she can't find a man because you already had a good one and you gave him up. In Eastern culture, while uh, in some areas, especially in the non-tourist areas, they're not as developed as the United States. Those areas still are culturally family oriented, where the kids are taught to value family. The kids are taught to prioritize and value the relationships. It doesn't mean that they don't have 304s out there. It doesn't mean that the guys aren't smashing everything with the pulse. But what it means is that when a woman dates for a long-term relationship, the family supports the relationship. The family is going to encourage that marriage to stay together most of the time. When a legacy is created, the family is going to support and aid in the upbringing of that legacy most of the time. There are going to be some outliers in there where if there's a racial bias and the family forbids the relationship, if there's a religious bias and the family forbids the relationship, in scenarios where there's a gender bias and the family disapproves of the relationship, only in those dynamics will the family shun the relationship and then shun everybody involved, including the kids that are born from it. But when the relationship is approved of by the family, by the friends, by the society, and the marriage becomes in that society, that society will support that marriage. So if you guys aren't getting along, y'all might walk away from one another and stop talking to one another for the rest of the afternoon. But other people are talking to you and giving you advice on how to fix this shit, which is something that does not happen in Western culture. FX Trader says, is that why the Mormons used to diversify? Well, Mormons actually come from, well, yes, they actually have that same method to diversify because they're not dependent on technology. They're very self-sufficient. The Mormons have the ability that they have things to do. Like from the break of dawn, the guys got stuff to do that's manual labor style stuff, hard tasks for the dudes. Then the women have things that they're supposed to be doing that are not nearly as difficult for the guys. I can't say because I'm not in the culture if they have gender equality where women are building houses and men are sewing clothes. But what I can say is that they have a fulfilling diversification because you prioritize your ability to go to work and provide for the collective. You have the ability to have your friends that you interact with in that collective. You might have a betrothed wife, which is your relationship. You have the support of your family. You have the support of your friends. All of this stuff um, works together with giving you a universal fulfillment. Mormons also have the ability to allow at a certain age for people to leave the culture, go to the rest of society and see what the non-Mormon culture looks like, and then choose to come back or to stay gone. So they have the ability to experience uh, uh, technology and everything else, but they also have the ability to decide to stay in Mormon culture. So when they choose to stay in Mormon culture, they have found their fulfillment in their culture, and they have no reason to go anywhere else. But yeah, they have a lot of doors to knock on, but they also have traditional behaviors, because if 40 or 50 Mormons come together and build a house in a day, right? And everybody's going to have dinner together, everybody's going to have lunch together, everybody's going to have breakfast together, everybody's spending time throughout the day bonding, where the guys bond over shared activities, women are going to bond over casual conversations and potentially shared activities. And then when they stop working and in the afternoons, if they're hanging out with one another before bedtime, the men and women are interacting with one another in social forums, having the capabilities to have a neighborhood dinner every week or every day, almost like the Blue Bloods, that series on I forgot, UPN, NBC, whatever. The fact is that by the people coming together and having family dinner every night, or the people coming together and having family dinner, maintain stable relationships with everybody at the table, no matter how big the table is, because you can choose to sit in different seats at the table, but everybody maintains relationships at the table. And that keeps you with a stronger network, which is why I was telling Jesse yesterday, at least once a month, you want to stay in contact with your former employers, because you want to maintain connections with the people that you could potentially facilitate with in other times. Now, a key part of risk, back on this main topic, is also understanding a personality trait called uh, neurotac- neurotacism. Neuroticism. Here we go. I'm sorry, I had to pronounce that word. Neuroticism. This is going to be the tendency to feel negative emotions like anxiety or anger. So it's going to be one of the single strongest predictors of a bad relationship's outcome. A person high on neuroticism is like a highly volatile stock. They're prone to seeing the worst in situations and communicating poorly during fights. Recognizing this trait in yourself or a partner is a crucial part of assessing the risk. If that's you, working on it is one of the best investments that you can make. If that's a potential partner, you need to know that you are taking a higher risk on. And this risk on the investment that will require a lot more work for your return. Doesn't mean that that's a red flag that you just can't fix, that this relationship isn't worth having. It just means that you are going to be putting a lot more effort into that person, because that person is clearly observed as a guaranteed negative person coming into this relationship starting off. Now, in the financial world, before any big investment, companies go through due diligence. They open their books, they reveal their assets and their liabilities, and let the other side check that everything is legit. This is all about transparency. A company that isn't transparent has something to hide. It's a huge red flag. And the exact same thing is true in a relationship. So we want to think of open, honest communication as your relationship's quarterly earnings call. You also want to think about, individuals that are not comfortable with talking about their body count. That might lead to a large quantity of promiscuous behavior, and you might assess that as the higher probability that this person might be promiscuous during a relationship. Doesn't mean that that's true, but if they're not willing to disclose, that typically is a red flag. Now, this is going to be a chance for both of you guys to get on the table all of your information, and acquire enough information to be on the same page. You want to talk about what's working and what's not if you're already in the relationship, and you want to make sure that you're headed in the same direction. But if you haven't started the relationship, you're gonna want to be able to discuss what will aid the relationship in functioning and what will not work with this relationship that could cause this relationship to fail. For example, um, uh, if a woman wants to know a man's whereabouts on a regular basis outside of the man's career choice that restricts him from disclosing his whereabouts, if the man is not willing to disclose his whereabouts off the job, then that'll be a red flag. If a man wants a woman to dress modestly and she's willing to dress like a 304, and if he doesn't like that, it's not going to work. That's a red flag. If a woman wants a man to check in on a regular basis when the schedule changes and he refuses to check in, that's a red flag. If I can think about a lot of these as I've sifted through them. um, if a man wants a legacy and a woman isn't willing to provide that legacy at this time, that's a red flag. Yeah, you can change your mind, but the problem is that if we walk into this relationship and you already know at 30 years old that you're not willing to produce a legacy, if you don't change your mind in the next 6 years, I lose out on my ability to have a legacy with you. That's a problem. Now, if I still want that legacy, I have two choices now. I'm either going to have that new legacy with somebody else, or you're going to allow me to perform some type of intermediary surrogate scenario where I can still get that legacy, even after you can't produce that legacy for me. Now, if she's objective to this, that's the red flag. Because we actually had a couple come on the show talking about how they had talked about it between the first and third date. He wanted a kid. She thought he forgot about it 2 years into the relationship. They bought a bigger house where there was enough room for it to turn one of the rooms into a nursery. Now he wants the child. They've gotten married. They've done all of this stuff together. They're financially stable. He wants the kid now. She doesn't want the kid. She doesn't know what to do. You're either going to give him the kid or you're going to get a divorce, because he wanted the kid. He wanted the kid from the beginning, and you talked him out of it. If you're not going to give him what he wants, you're going to have to go, because no man should force a woman to do something that she doesn't want to do. And uniformity dictates that no woman should force a man to not do something that he would prefer to do, such as having a legacy. So in that same dynamic, it's only fair to say if you're not willing to give it to him, don't stop him from finding somebody who is, right? We got to talk about these things. If we are talking to a person that's in their feminine vibe and they're willing to be defiant and argumentative instead of being cooperative and negotiative, that's a red flag. If we're not going to work together, if you're going to talk down to me and I have to yes dare you, that's not going to work for me, right? If a woman feels like it's too much to follow the instructions of her man, but she's not going to ask, what do you want? What do you need? And how can I help you? Which forces me to have to tell you what I want and what I need and how you can help me. And you don't want me to tell you what to do. That's going to be a red flag, which is one of the reasons why we say we need a woman that's obedient. Because if I can tell you what needs to be done and you're going to do it, I can factor in saying it in a nice way where the delivery makes you feel comfortable with getting the job done. But I mean, hands down, if I was to ask a woman to, we were dating and I was having a conversation with a guy and the conversation looks like I need her to leave the room and I ask her to go make me a cup of coffee, that's a polite way of saying get out of the room. If she's not going to take that and say, okay, well, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to make this cup of coffee. I'm going to make the longest pot of coffee that I can make, right? If she's not going to do that, then we have a problem, because I asked you to leave the room by giving you something to do outside of the room that we're in to prevent you from being involved in what the situation calls for you not to be involved in, right? Now, a lot of women aren't going to agree with that. Oh, I should be there. I should be able to hear everything, blah, 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 blah. I should be able to take action, blah, 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 blah. No, even the bad bitch that wants to have the Glock switch and catch your back has to be in the same room as the switch. So if you got to leave the room and go get the switch, at the end of the day, when I tell you to go make me a cup of coffee, sweetheart, go get the switch with the extendo clip. But don't come back into the room until I give you the it's going down code words so that you know that, you know, crossfire kind of situation. But this is all about taking care of your ability to make sure that your relationship is going to have a positive communication. One of the most critical areas for transportation is going to be the money. And I mean, women are going to fight about it on a regular basis. Fights about money are the leading cause of divorce for a reason. He said women tend to forget this should work both ways. Of course it does. Matter of fact, I mean, I thought about myself being on one of those balloon popping skits, and I know that I would not go very far in it because as soon as they ask me, what do I look for in a woman, I'm going to give them the capabilities to eliminate themselves and be like, look, obedience. First word out of my mouth is going to be obedience, and see how many are willing to stay. Probably none. But the reason being is that a woman can tell a man to hold her purse, pick this up, carry that, move this, go get the groceries, come get the car, go get the kids, you know, whatever she wants, do the laundry for her, whatever she wants to. She could just tell a man. A man could be watching TV, he could be relaxing, he could be playing his video games, he could be watching the football game during Thanksgiving, and she will give him a job to do. Honey, go set the table. And the man will stop what he's doing, especially if he's fearing of a conflict. He'll stop what he's doing and do what she says do. And that's what women want. Now, uniformity dictates that if I give you instructions in the exact same dynamic, you should be able to follow them without fussing and complaining and kicking up drag, right? Now, women object to that. The double standard there is unacceptable. If I already know that I'm the kind of man that will do whatever you ask me to do within reason, when I have the time to get it done, then I expect to have the exact same kind of woman that will do whatever I ask you. Reasonable. And I'm only going to ask you to do it when I know that you have the time to do it. Which also means that if we have levels of transparency, then you know what my schedule's like. You know what my week's like because I told you. I know what your schedule like, and I know what your week's like because you told me. So when you tell me to go X, Y, and Z place and do X, Y, and Z, you know I ain't got shit to do. So I shouldn't have a reason to tell you no, right? So if I'm going to do it because you asked me, you're going to wake me up in the middle of the night to go get you some cough medicine because we don't have any in the house because your nose is running you sick in the bed. I get up in the middle of the night and I go get that cough medicine and bring it back because I love you, right? Well, if I'm in the middle of this live podcast and I tell you to go in the kitchen and go make me something to eat because I'm hungry, the same way you could have got up and got your own damn cough medicine, I could have got up and went and made something to eat during the live podcast. It's the same thing. There's no difference. The convenience of you doing it for me is the same convenience of me doing it for you. So when I asked it of you, you shouldn't be bitching. But when, like Steven said, women tend to forget that this should work both ways. Now, when it comes to income, when couples aren't open about their income or their debt or their spending habits, it breeds mistrust and resentment. And research shows that couples who are financially transparent are way more satisfied with their marriage. Now, that doesn't mean that you give up your independence or your self-sufficiency. It means that you create a shared vision. A partner who's secretive about their money isn't just being private. They are signaling that they aren't all in on a shared future. Even if you're in a relationship where one person's handling the finances and the other person is taking care of the responsibilities, your ability to tell that person how much money got spent, what it got spent on, and how much money is left over allows the person who's chipping in on this pot to know how much is left versus how much can be spent versus how much needs to be acquired to keep the party going, right? This is the ability to work together as a team. If you guys are sharing the car together, you're supposed to be able to tell your partner when there isn't enough gas in the car for them to get to work tomorrow. And likewise, you should be able to put more gas in the car so that they can get to work tomorrow. Beyond money, this transparency leads to what you could call shared governance. Because in a good company, the leadership team makes big decisions together in the boardroom They talk about all the budget, what got spent where, redirect money to certain places, cut off funding for other things. Everybody knows what the money looks like. The same is going to go for a good relationship. Major life decisions about career changes, moving, having kids should be made together. Abortions, decisions should be made together. When one person constantly makes big decisions on their own, they are acting like a rogue CEO, and it kills trust and makes the other person feel like an employee, not a partner. This is why due diligence in the early stages of dating is so important. Now, I'm also going to say to the magnitude for those women that want to be financially kept by a man, you are the employee in the relationship because you're working for the resources that you're receiving. Whatever you're doing for your husband or your boyfriend as a personal assistant is what your performance is to get the compensation of all of his resources, all of his assets. So there isn't an equal say in that type of relationship, which is one of the reasons why women demand 50-50 so that they can be a 50% shareholder in those relationships, which is one of the reasons why I said to you guys in that dating contract to make sure that it is documented that her financial contributions are not towards equity, it is towards room and board, so that they help pay the mortgage, they are paying rent for living there, they are not paying for equitable stake in the house, and they are agreeing to this in a contract. So if they live in your house for 15 years and they help pay for mortgage for 15 years, they pay their rent portion for living on the premises and not equitable stake in the house. Because when you rent from a lender, from a landlord, it doesn't matter if that apartment complex is on a mortgage or not. You're paying rent for your ability to stay on the property. And when you leave that property, you don't leave with shares of the apartment complex. Likewise, if you draft this contract correctly, then you're able to dictate that the capital coming from your partner is for her renting her presence in the property, not contributing to the equitable stake of the property, which allows for you to agree that up to a certain market value of rent that she is giving you for her presence, her legal authorization to remain on the property until such time as she terminates that stay by breaking up with you, right? Because again, terms of possession of premises is limited to performance. So once the relationship ends, you have 24 hours or 24 to 48 hours to remove yourself and all of your belongings as identified on this contract from the premises. Anything that is left behind after 48 hours is the possession of the property. It is seized unless you're going to have a storage fee. Well, is she going to leave and come back in 3 months to come and get her stuff? Well, there's a storage fee for any property that you wish to collect after 48 hours. And you can dictate the terms of that. $250 a month or $25 a day, not to exceed $10,000 or whatever the case may be over the course of a certain period of time, because you have laws in certain states, abandonment of assets laws, where if you leave, if the owner of an object doesn't come back to collect that object within 90 days, they abandon that object. You can have it as a clause that if you move without your stuff, you have to come and get it within 90 days, and you will be charged X number of dollars per day, $25 a day, $50 per day for the storage of your assets, so that those assets will still be there when you come back. So I can't throw it out and burn it. I have to hold on to your assets for up to 90 days. And if you don't collect them after the 90-day period, then your assets will be disposed of. Plain and simple. And potentially disposed of at your expense. So if I can't throw it away for free or sell it to turn a profit, if I got to pay somebody to come get this shit, I'll send you a bill. But you got to understand that this information gathering phase of your relationship is clearly important. You want to understand your partner's business model. What are their core values? How do they handle stress? What their relationship with their family is like, because their family is going to contribute to the satisfaction or misery of your relationship. your partner's family is talking ill about you or attempting to sabotage your relationship, you will have landmines in your behavior with them. Because if you say something, could potentially word for word say something to hurt your relationship, or uh, rephrase it to hurt your relationship. You want to make sure that they have the type of family that you can trust to aid in the maintenance of the relationship. The same way the employees of the bank can only be trusted with the money in the vault if the owners of the bank have vetted them to be able to be sure that they are capable of being trusted with the money in the vault. These conversations are like reading a company's annual report. Someone who can't tell you their values or their goals is like a company with no mission statement. They're drifting. And if you invest in them, you'll be drifting too. So you have to pay attention to the market signals. Vague answers are a signal. Words like not matching actions, that's going to be a huge red flag, a huge signal. Refusing to define a relationship after a reasonable amount of time is a signal that they want the benefits of your investment without any of the accountability. You're dating a girl or dating a dude, and let's not put a label on things. Let's just no. We've already passed the trial phase. It's already been a couple of weeks or a couple of months. We've established that we're going to be exclusive to one another. At this point, when it is defined as cheating to interact with other people, that is the point that we need to establish this relationship for public definition. If we're just fooling around and this isn't anything serious, at the point that one person wants to make this serious, it has to be clearly understood that we are going to make this serious or we're going to dissolve it. A person who is truly ready for a long-term partnership, a secure blue chip asset, will welcome this stuff. They'll be an open book. They'll want to build a shared life with you by expecting transparency. You're not being demanding. You're being a prudent investor, protecting your heart and making sure that you are building a partnership that is designed to last. Now, when your partner tells you everything and you tell your partner everything in a judgment free, resentment free, retaliation free zone, you build this habit over a while where you have no choice, because it is an instinct now to come home and tell your partner what happened today. Everything they weren't there for, you're talking to them about. Your partner is going to then, after they finish listening to you, tell you everything that happened while you were gone. This in the military is called debriefing after a mission. So everybody knows where everybody's been and what everybody's been doing. There's less stuff to talk about when you're doing this every day. But if you leave each other's side every day and you regroup every day and you debrief each other every day, everybody knows what's going on with everybody. Now, people say, oh, well, this is bullshit, blah, 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 blah. I'm not telling my partner anything. Well, think about this. When catastrophic situations happen, your partner comes up missing, they end up in the hospital, they end up going to jail. These are situations where the police are going to ask you the details that you don't know because you don't want to find out. You don't want your partner to tell you anything. You don't want to tell your partner anything. If you're the victim, your partner has to know where you were the last 7 days. The partner has to know what outfit you were wearing when you were last seen with them, who you were with, what vehicle you went in, what direction you were headed. These are the questions that are supposed to be asked so that they can find you if you come up missing. If you got hurt while you were there, who were you out there with? The potential people who could have either caused you to be hurt or seen who hurt you. If you're wrongfully accused of a crime, your alibi is where you were based off of witness verification. So if your spouse can verify that you said or you were expected to be at a certain location at a certain time, that's two people, you and your partner, that is identifying that you should have been at X, Y, and Z location. they should be able to go to that location and verify that you were there, which proves that you were not involved in the crime that you're being accused in. These are scenarios where, while it doesn't happen to everybody and it doesn't happen every day, that if it does happen, the one time in the 55 or 75 years of your life that it does happen, the one time it does happen, knowing where your partner was, where your partner plans on going, who your partner plans on going with, aids you in your ability to keep your partner safe, and it aids your partner in their ability to keep you safe. Because something like a car breaking down, flat tire, house catching on fire, the difference between calling you first versus calling 911 first is the difference between how far away is my partner versus the 45 minutes it's going to take for the police to get here, right? 15 minutes if it's a life or death situation. But if my partner is 10 minutes away, I can call my partner and then call the police, right? You got to understand that your ability to make logical decisions based off of the parameter distance between you and your partner's expected location allows you to be able to analyze your situation for what it is. So having that full transparency is more than just keeping tabs on your partner. It benefits the entire family. Keeping track of your kids is the same method. If you know where your kids are and who your kids are with, the probability of them getting into trouble, you can assess the risk and position yourself closer to where your kids are going to be at, so that when they potentially call you for assistance, you're closer than what you would have been had you not known where they were. You would be better prepared for rescue and recovery when necessary. You would be on the lookout for trends that don't look right. Lack of checking in. I'm going to go to their last location to see if they're doing all right because they haven't checked in. You don't necessarily have to pull them out of the event that they're in, but you know, you were supposed to check in 2 hours ago and I didn't hear from you, so I wanted to make sure that you're doing okay. You know, that's how you keep your kids safe. That's how you keep your romantic partner safe. So if the principles are so clear, why do so many people get it wrong? Because the modern dating market is filled with weird paradoxes that lead us astray. A lot of the double standards that feminist models push on men that men accept doesn't always work. If you don't get these hidden traps, you're setting yourself up for frustration. Okay. Steven says they used to have to run commercials that said, "Do you know where your kids are?" to remind parents to do this. And I grew up in that generation, bro. I grew up in that generation. You know, I grew up in the generation where I told my parents where I was going, who I was going with, the license plate of the vehicle, make and model of the vehicle, who all was in the car. This is before cell phones came out. When cell phones came out, and I had one of those Nextel phones with the chirp thingy on it. I was out there before Boost Mobile came out. I was out there, and the fact is that when I went from location to location, I used to tell my where I was leaving, where I was planning on going, and if there was a specific route to get there, what route I was taking, which road I was going down, which interstate I had to get on. If I was going from one city to a next, because I was in a small state, if I was going from one city to the next and I was taking the back roads, I would tell them, hey, I'm going down X trail to get to so and so's house instead of taking the interstate. If my car broke down, my parents knew where I was. If the police showed up, my parents knew exactly where I was. There were situations where I got arrested while black, and I could tell you that they were there before I got put into the squad car because they knew exactly where I was. There were situations where I had to get towed. They knew exactly where I was. If something happened to me and I ended up in a hospital, they knew exactly which hospital was near the location of where I was to come and get me. But likewise, my sister did the same thing. She's my older sister. She did the same thing. And I was able to go to the hospital where she was at after her car crash, bring her to a different hospital where she was, instead of being in the lobby, I got her into an ER, which saved her life because I knew where she was. I knew who she was with. I knew what she was doing out there. So by knowing, I was able to prevent the loss of a relative. It's very important dynamics that people don't understand. They take this for granted, and a lot of people who are destructive, a lot of people who are toxic and you don't want to be involved with, those are the kind of people who are going to devalue this particular type of information. They're going to make it seem like having this information is wrong for you to look for, because they want to have the freedom of probable deniability, of plausible deniability, the ability to deny that they were going somewhere inappropriate with the intent to do something inappropriate. Even if they ended up not doing anything inappropriate, they decided that they had the plan to go and do something inappropriate. So they don't want you to know where they're going or who they're going with. Girls' night out is supposed to be an all-encompassing scenario. I'm just going to hang out with the girls. Right. But if you're not willing to tell me who you're going with, if y'all are meeting guys there, if you're going to be interacting with guys there, what location you're going, who's driving you back, because the driver can get drunk, you're not going to this location, right? You're not my daddy. This relationship is not going to work. Because if I don't know where you are and I don't know if you're going to be safe, then how do I know? Because you can go girls' night out, right? Oh, she's grown. She should be able to do what she wants until she gets roofied. Oh, well, her homegirl should keep her safe, unless all of her homegirls have a boyfriend that they're meeting up with, or a fling that they're meeting up with, and you don't have anybody because you're leaving your boyfriend at the house. If everybody else is paired up and the other person that's not paired up slips you a roofie, the likelihood that anybody's going to pay attention to you being walked home with another man while they're all getting laid with another man is highly unlikely, which leaves you vulnerable. So if they're going to meet up with other guys, it's not about the insecurity of the man asking that question. It is a clear observation that if you're going with a group of 4, you're the 5th person, 4 guys are meeting up, you're going to be single. If a 5th guy walks up in this group and those 4 girls are preoccupied, if the 5th guy decides Norman Bates you, nobody's there to protect you. That's the observation. It's not about, well, what if my girlfriend sleeps with another dude? If you're not doing it right, she shouldn't be there in the first place, right? So you got to understand, the ability to keep your partner safe is the ability to assess the situation. And this goes both ways when it comes down to the women making sure that their man is okay, right? Because men are more vulnerable in society than women are, believe it or not. Women don't agree with this, but it is true. A man can't sit in a public park if there's children in the park, because women are going to make it seem like that man is out to get the children. A man can't go to a yoga studio without women thinking that the man is out to get them. A man can't be on a beach where a woman decides to take off her top, even though it's supposed to be fully clothed requirement, because the man is going to be accused of doing something wrong because a woman took off her top. You got certain states like Louisiana where the accusation could lead to your genitalia being cut off. Caceration is a law passed in Louisiana for catching that charge, even if you didn't do it. Even if you didn't do it. And we've had a lot of scenarios where the false accusation has occurred. Now, that does not take away from the factual accusations, but the false accusations that occur endanger the safety of men more than the inability for the women to tell the truth to people to believe them, because so many people have lied. But the problem is that a woman can keep her man safe by knowing, well, shit, if you're going to this bachelorette party or you're going to the bachelor party and there's going to be girls there, you don't want to be there, not because I don't trust you, because what if it happens like a players club and something happens to one of the girls? You don't want to be in that room when something happens to that girl because you don't want to catch that charge. That's the issue. There's a level to the knowledge that is supposed to be keeping your partner safe, and people forget that. Now, the first major paradox is a catastrophic observation of choice overload. Now, we have more options than ever before because dating apps, as I told you, can show you hundreds of potential partners in less than an hour. And you think more choices is always better, but that's wrong. In reality, too many options often lead to paralysis and regret. Psychologist Barry Schwartz explained this in his book, The Paradox of Choice. So there's the book of the night. A famous study proved this was not good. And shoppers saw 24, this was the study used jam, and when shoppers saw 24 flavors of jam, they were far less likely to buy any of the jam than what they did when they only saw 6 flavors. Now, too many options was overwhelming. The exact same thing can happen on dating apps. First, your expectations get totally inflated. You start chasing a perfect partner and become unwilling to commit to the great partner because you've hunted or being hunted by the what if or the possibility of who's next, who could potentially. It's like when you're scrolling up on a social media platform, you're always telling yourself that I'm going to stop after the next video, but you always wonder what's the next video, and you find yourself swiping for 4 to 6 hours. It's the same dynamic. You're not capable of committing to the person that you've already swiped right on because you're wondering about the person you haven't swiped on yet. Second, you're less satisfied with the choice that you do make because research online dating found that when people had more partners to choose from, they were less happy with their final choice because you're always wondering what if you could have done better. And the third, it can lead to doing nothing at all. Endless market of faces makes you want to quit, coupled with the long-standing dynamic of being ghosted by a lot of other individuals. There goes Jesse. Special shout out to Jesse. What up, my dude? A GOP state rep in, I think that's Minnesota, Michigan, got a DUI. Ooh, shit. This morning, and he is running for state auditor. I have been supporting another candidate for months. My vetting proved successful. So you're telling me one of the people that could have been the the person that you were running with, you vetted that guy, and that guy got. Now you don't have to worry about him pulling off of the campaign trail. That's smart. That is smart. I don't know if getting a DUI could potentially ruin his career unless his campaign has something to do about being responsible and he was just caught being irresponsible. But I do know that it's definitely going to compromise his ability to be voted as a state auditor in that particular state, seeing as how he ain't able to keep his own self together. How can he keep the rest of the state together? I got to tell you, when you end up in a public forum or any type of political scenario, you have to be on your best behavior and pray that any of your bad decisions from the past does not negatively impact your ability to be successful today. He said there's a Republican and a Democrat running for auditor in Minnesota. Oh, I thought it was Michigan. I forgot my letters. Minnesota, that both got DUIs. The Republican got his today. Oh, shoot. So which one are you running? The one that you're running for doesn't have a DUI, but both guys do have a DUI, or is the one you're running for got a DUI as well as the other guy? That's crazy. Well, I mean, that evens the odds if everybody's out there drinking and driving. Hopefully they pass some laws that lightens the load for people who get DUIs. That way we can get our licenses back better. Because I know that back in the day, they were hard on DUI. They were like license suspended for 5 to 10 years minimum, DUI classes, probation, drug test, breathalyzers in cars, all of this other, and that's like first offense. Second and third offenses, they're selling your car, they're indefinite suspensions, all this other stuff. So if the guys at the top are getting them, is that the Republican who got the DUI is only 27 years old. I am supporting a mayor for auditor, and he is competing against a 27-year-old. Okay, so the Democrat got one, the Republican got one, and you're going after them. You're representing the mayor who doesn't have one. Well, that sounds good. It sounds real. If you're following the only guy in the race that hasn't gotten a DUI, I mean, you kind of got the winning horse here. The only one that's responsible, right? But if everybody's irresponsible, it's like, oh, get the guy. The guy that's already in office has a better chance of winning than the guy who hasn't gotten in the office, unless the guy that's already in office has not done a good job. So if the mayor's done a good job and the mayor is running for a state auditor, it is likely that the mayor would get it because the mayor has been responsible as a mayor. That's my observation. So vetting the mayor is like, he ain't done nothing wrong in his campaign that I can see. I'll go with him. I'll stick that route too. But everybody has a shady past. Everybody has, and the people with more money and power have the ability to get rid of their shady past so that it's not in the public sight. That's where extortion and blackmail comes from, because the stuff that got scrubbed off the internet, the stuff that got scrubbed off the news, is the stuff that people will pay to publish now. And that's going to be the reason why they get blackmailed into, oh, if you don't want the world to know, you got to give me so much extra dollars or do this corrupt behavior, because their image has been buffered so cleanly that they can't allow it to be tarnished. You got to support the mayor without a DUI. There's a few others running, but I think I got the right guy. He is equipped with good info. Plus, he is a professional auditor. Oh, shoot, that's a shoe-in. Now, you're going to use this position to get into politics so that you can work your way up to be the president after the president after the president. You're going to be like 2 presidents away. So 8 years from now, you're going to be running for president, right, Jesse? You're going to be, or at least running for Congress. At least you got to get into Congress, right? You got to get your 2 years in, right? Now, as he types that up, the second paradox is going to be the mispricing of status and wealth. I know when in dating market, wealth and status are powerful signals. But one study has found that men who were just one standard deviation above average in income or education got a whooping 255% more, or a whopping 255% more interest online. So not a shocker there. Hold on. He says, I'm working with lots of people. I want to continue to grow professionally. That is a very good yes. I like the way he puts his answers up there. It's like, well, I'm not officially making a statement, but I definitely want to continue to grow professionally. That's a yes. Fuck yeah, I want to see myself as a Congress or a future president if I can make it. Because at your current age, you got plenty of time, because presidents usually get into office in their late 50s, early 60s, or 70s. So if 20 years at your current age, you'd probably be 50 or 60 years old anyway. At 20 years, you'd be able to make it. You'd be in there. You'd have been doing a political career for 15, 20 years, and then you'd be able to dive into Congress. And get there, you got to give us VIP press passes. Right? So I'm going to say that one more time because I tripped all over that. Men who are just one standard deviation above average in income or education got a whopping 255% more interest online. Now, here's going to be the paradox. While those things are great and they're going to be getting you first round interviews, they are terrible predictors of long-term relationship happiness. The research is going to be crystal clear here that once your basic needs are met, more money does not equal more happiness in the relationship. Jesse says the 27-year-old opponent of mine who I've been with the last couple of years, he knows I have some sway. Apparently, you're going to beat that guy twice since he can't stay sober. You're going to have to learn how to go straight edge. Look, they actually, when the president first got out there, they were asking people who wanted a press pass. I filled out the application for the press pass. They never got to me, so I figured that was a no. But had they given me a press pass, I would have went. I would have took the podcast to the White House. Probably would have got a ton of views. I would have flew all the way out there just so that I could be in the room for anyone. I don't care what it is, because I got the press pass. That's what so if it ever happens, we're going to the big house. We're going to the big house. Master gonna love us. We're gonna get us some of that pie. Now, as it relates uh, to the main topic, the thing is, and this is going to be something that really matters, because the things that really matter are those fundamentals that we talked about earlier, which is secure attachment style, kindness, and emotional stability. The things we talked about yesterday about building your brand and having your brand based on your values, your morals, your ethics, your career choice, your long term 20, 30-year, 40-year plans, your retirement plans, your visions, your spiritual connections, all of the stuff that we talked about yesterday. Jesse says, good on you for applying it to the White House press pass. Hey, any opportunity, because I cover politics to the extent that it impacts people's money. I could always ask Donald Trump a question about how this impacts broke people and their ability to make money. And his response to that doesn't necessarily have to be a clear one, because he does talk in riddles. But the fact is that he's able to talk about how the oil is going to benefit the bottom 25% of Americans. Because that's like a straightforward question. It's like, so how did your last five political moves benefit the bottom 25% of America, of American incomes? You know, straight to the point. Because this is a man about money. He just had that conversation earlier today about the damn Sharpie pencil and how he saved the White House $1,000 a pin by only paying $5 a pin for pins we're going to give out anyway. And I'm sitting over here thinking, like, if he can talk about Sharpies, he can talk about the bottom 25% of American incomes, right? If I ever up that press pass, bro, I'm going super hard. Now, understanding, back to the topic, chasing a partner based solely on their income is like buying a stock just because it has a flashy IPO. It says nothing about the person's long-term health, and it shows nothing about their long-term goals, ambitions, dreams, whatever. When women look at men who have flashy cars and expensive clothes, uh, that doesn't show if they're broke, if they're born against a stone, if that car's a rental. They can lie and say it's theirs because they have it in their possession. But if they're renting the car today and catching the bus after they start dating you because they can't afford the car, the fact is that you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You're painting a picture in your mind based on what you see today. And you are assuming that if this runs consistent forever, that you will be successful forever. However, if you dive into a financially challenging relationship where the guy is spending more money than he's making in order to keep up the facade, you find yourself in a relationship that is not what you signed up for, which will leave you in a compromising position, because now, after you've invested your time and potentially your virtue for the facade of his income and his status as he projected it, you will find yourself in a position where the best years of your life are gone to what is considered a financial deadbeat. You have to pay attention to the bigger picture. The third paradox is sabotage of self-doubt, your own self-sabotage. A lot of people think that being incredibly picky means that they have high standards, but often it is a defense mechanism that comes from a fear of being rejected. When you're afraid of getting hurt, you subconsciously set your standards so impossibly high that no one could ever meet them. This person's too short. That one has any type of annoying laugh. And the third is boring jobs. You set standards impossibly high. When women set the standard that men must be 6'5", they closed the market for themselves. Because the average man is like 5'6", 5'7", probably 5'8", 5'9". I haven't looked at the statistics, so don't quote me on that. I have to go back and do the research on that and verify. But I believe that somewhere between 5'6" and 5'9" is the average man, because men are starting to become taller these days. The average man is not 5'6". The average man is not over 6 feet. Okay, so when a woman sets the standard that she's looking for a man by default at over 6 feet, a man can change his income, a man can change his credit score, but a man cannot change his height, and a man cannot change his skin complexion. A man can grow out some of his hair and get hair implants or shave all of his hair off, but a man cannot change his height, and a man cannot change the money he has. He cannot change he can change the debt that he has, right? So when a woman says, "Oh, well, you got to be, 5'6", so when a woman says you got to be 6'5", that cuts out everybody that's not that height, right? And that sets an impossible standard because I could be a multimillionaire. Everybody else that's the same height as Rey Mysterio can be a multimillionaire. Everybody that's the same height as Kevin Hart can be multimillionaires, but we're not 6-foot men. We don't qualify, no matter how rich we are, right? This isn't about having standards. It is about using standards as a shield. By making sure that no one is ever good enough, you never have to actually put your heart on the line. So women that claim that they're single by choice, no, you're not single by choice. You designed a magnitude where the men that you want who don't want you put you in a position where you're single because all the men that want you don't meet your expectations because your expectations are unrealistic. So you don't want the guys that could potentially give you a good relationship. You want the guys that don't want you. That's why you're single. And that works the same way for guys. Men can be more single by choice than women because men are going to protect their assets. But a man is single because the women that does want him, he's not interested in, and the women that he wants isn't interested in him. But if a man pays attention to the women that are interested in him and vet those women and find one of those women to be the woman of choice, it is easier for a man to acquire a woman who is valuing him as a man than it is for a man to convince a woman to value him by the use of his resources. It's going to be a way of controlling the game by never really playing the game. And this is often tied to that neuroticism, creating a vicious cycle. Anxiety fuels the pickiness, which keeps you alone, which reinforces the anxiety. You become your own worst enemy, rejecting great potential investments because of your own internal fears. Now, this also works with the stock market by being afraid of putting your money on the stock market because you got too many bills. But if you can save $25 a month, you can invest. Um, but being afraid that you don't have enough money to go around, or you're afraid you're going to make the right choice, or you're afraid that the stocks aren't good enough, you're going to set standards that I'm going to wait until all of my debt are paid off before I invest in the stock market. That's a bad move to make because the opportunity cost of generating wealth with extra money, that is discretionary spending, is offset by the amount of money that you threw down on paying down a debt. Yes, you should pay down a debt, especially if you're dealing with credit cards that are at or above 22% interest, because even the stocks that I gave you guys right now are operating at 20%. So opportunity cost, you pay down that debt first. But if you've got credit cards that you can roll over those credit cards with zero to low balance and then work your way in, bro, it makes so much sense to juggle reasonable balances on credit cards and invest the difference into your brokerage account and get the opportunity cost of generating wealth and then taking the wealth and paying down the rest of the debt. Jesse said, if we bought in 15 million illegal alien females across the border, the American females would want closed borders. Well, if we brought 15 million plus illegal alien females across the borders, American men would find 15 million wives and give them citizenship. So they wouldn't be illegal for long. Now, if women came across the border to get a green card, to get citizenship, to stay in America, and they're willing to cooperate with the man, oh yeah, women would want to close the borders before women start behaving the way a man would prefer in order for her to be accepted by that man. So a woman from another country would be the woman a man wants for an American man, and an American man would go to another country to get that woman before an American woman is willing to behave the way a man would prefer a woman to behave. And the dynamic is crazy because then the women will shame that man for going to another country and finding a better quality woman that is willing to treat him the way he feels like he deserves, instead of allowing himself to be devalued by the women in his neighborhood. And this dynamic is very huge. Passport bros is the hugest thing that has happened, not just because men can travel the world and get laid by random women, but because men can go to other countries and find family oriented wives that value their men. And those are the two dynamics that a man is looking for, because sex is sex and that happens all over the world. But when a man signs that contract with the US government guaranteeing that this woman is going to get $20,000 of standard of living or more from him the entire time she's living in the country in order for her to get her green card as a wife, right? When that man signed, he's doing that for a woman that is going to have the family oriented behavior, potentially legacy driven, where she's going to bear his children and she's going to cooperate with that man the way that man wants a woman to cooperate with him. He's not going to fly a woman to America that's going to treat him like garbage, because he could the girl on the street to do that. A man goes to another country to get the type of treatment that is not offered for him in America. He says, American women, get away from me. I don't know why that didn't become a hit record. Hell no to the no, no, no. Oh, Lord. All right, now, back to the main topic, y'all. Ladies are gonna get mad. He talking. This ain't a red pill, blue pill, black pill podcast, but when somebody bring it up, I stick my toes into the water because it's true. And this negatively impacts the ability to make money. Because think about this. For a man to fly to Asia, you're looking at up to $2,000 in one way. So you might be able to find you a round trip, but you're looking at upward of $2,000 one way to get out there. You're looking at $3,000 to $6,000 a month to stay there. If you're gonna stay there for 90 days, 3 months, you're looking at being there for almost $10,000. He said, I got a dip. I appreciate y'all all you're saying. Hey man, thank you for coming by. I'm glad that you gave me an update on what's going on with your campaign drive. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that you actually win it. I believe that you will. You got good sense. But it's always good to give you good wishes. Now, when we look at it, it's like I said, it's $2,000 to $4,000 to get there. It's $3,000 to $6,000 a month. If you want to make sure that you got enough money to cover everything, because if you want to live like low grade, mid to low grade, yeah, you can go there with $2,000. But if you want to be able to go there and not have to worry about nothing, ball out of control kind of thing, at the end of the day, you want to go and do that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Jesse. I greatly appreciate it. You want to be able to go and do that by bringing yourself $3,000 to $6,000 to get out there, because it is more than what you need. And any emergency that happens, because transportation costs, living, whatever, rescheduling your flight, any emergencies that happen, you got to pay for that stuff. You're going to be there for 90 days. You might overspend to live the American lifestyle and might find yourself spending $4,000 a month instead of $2,000 a month. But to live the low scale, modest lifestyle, you could potentially see yourself doing it for under $2,000 a month. So if you went there with like $4,000 to $6,000 a month for 3 months, you're looking at almost $10,000 to bring you there, $2,000 to $4,000 to get you there and back on the flight, which is like $14,000 at minimum. And then if you're bringing her back with you, that's another $4,000. Remember, I told you bring in extra money. If you got to pay $2,500 for her visa plus the flight to fly her back, which is way more than the flight to fly you there, because now you're flying back an extra person. All of this cost almost $20,000 worth of income that you're going to put towards going to another country and getting a woman and bringing her back that has the values that you're looking for. The average person on the 50% or bottom 25% spectrum of income in America can't afford to do that. Your standard living has to be paid in America, and you need another $20,000 to go to another country and get you a woman. Now, the American women here in America will put themselves in a position where they are, by design, they are willing to date these guys to benefit from that same $20,000 a year worth of income without actually having a man, which is upward of $2,000 to $5,000 a year worth of guys taking them out shopping, buying them nice clothes, buying them nice shoes, taking care of their hair, trips around the world, all of this other stuff, but never committing to the man. it's a bad investment for the men because the men are not locking in on the type of female that they would hope to have, right? So if you know the theory, that's going to be one thing. Putting it into practice, that's going to be another. So here's going to be a playbook, a set of actionable strategies that you can use to get an edge in the market. First things first, you have to engineer artificial scarcity. We know that endless choices is a trap. The solution, create your own scarcity. Stop swiping forever. Limit yourself to a small number of active conversations at a time, say maybe 5 or 10 of them. If you're paying for the app, if you're not paying for the app, you want to limit your conversations to 5 or 10 people in person. This forces you to be more selective up front, and it increases your psychological commitment to the people that you are talking to. You'll get them a real chance because you don't have the illusion of an infinite supply of backups. This handful of individuals that you're going to swing with, it's going to be one of them or it's going to be none of them, right? And you're going to play like the dating game. And as they don't qualify based on actual red flag behavior, you limit the group. So if you started with 10 and as red flags occur, you go down to 5. And as red flags occur, you go down to 2. And by the time you get to the choice, you have committed to one of them. If one of them fell out, whoever's left, that's the one that you're committing to. Now, method 2, implement a portfolio screen. Pro investors don't look at every stock. Notice when we do roll stocks across the screen, we have less than 50. They run a screen for non-negotiable criteria, which I tell you guys on a regular basis that you guys have to stand on your non-negotiable expectations for behavior, right? You need to do the same thing. Sit down and define your absolute deal breakers. These shouldn't be about height or hair color. They should be about the fundamentals. For example, must show signs of secure attachment or must be open about money. Write down these ideas. When you meet someone who violates a core rule, you cut them loose immediately, no matter how great the chemistry feels. This discipline saves you investing in assets that are almost, because at the beginning of the relationship, the chemistry between you two, the sexual chemistry, the physical chemistry, sometimes even the emotional chemistry can run high. And you have to understand that that chemistry can run so high so often that you ignore all the red flags. No matter how high the chemistry is, a red flag is still a red flag. And when the dopamine settles and you get used to her behavior, the red flags now are catastrophic problems. You want to make sure that no matter how early on in a relationship, no matter how emotionally invested, no matter how on the deep end you are with this relationship, as soon as the red flags start, you stop. Instant. Okay? You guys got to remember that. Now, the next thing we're going to pay attention to, use the foot in the door technique, which is a marketing technique. This is a classic persuasion trick where you start with a small request to get a yes for a bigger one later. In dating, this means building attraction through small escalating steps. Don't ask for a 3-hour dinner on a first date. Start with a low investment, coffee, or a drink, typically less than $5 a person. If that engagement goes well, you can escalate it. It's a way of organically growing attraction instead of forcing it. When a woman asks you, well, where did you plan on taking me on a first date? Bro, Starbucks. And that's expensive because depending on what they ask for, that could be $15 a glass. I've actually found that you can determine the person's character because if they're expecting you to pay and you order and their order is more expensive than yours, you've got a problem on your hands. So if your order turned out to be $5 and their order turns out to be $20, you're with the wrong person because they're going to charge it to the underhills. The more comfortable they are, they're not even comfortable with you right now. Well, that depends because I just thought about the price of a McDonald's coffee, and that's actually a much better idea than a Starbucks coffee. But what I was thinking about was a coffee, but I was thinking about offering just a drink. But fantastic ideas. A McDonald's coffee is like $1 and some change, and you can get a large one of those far cheaper than you can get a small venti coffee from Starbucks. But so Steven's got the right idea. Uh, Coffee from McDonald's first thing in the morning or last thing in the afternoon. They don't sell. I don't. They should sell coffee throughout the day. I've never tried to get a coffee afternoon if I wasn't working in a place like that. But coffee from a place that sells coffee for under $1. Coffee at the courthouse. You can get. It's free entry. Club downtown. It's free entry. And you get those jumbo sized cups of coffee at the courthouse for like $1 and some change. You can probably get a whole meal in the courthouse cafeteria for less than $10. And then Large is pushing it. You get you a small cup. Well, I figure if we're going to be talking for a minute, that well, I say for a minute, but if we're going to be talking for a couple hours, I figure that a tall cup is going to be more fiscally responsible than 3 or 4 small cups. That's why I was thinking a large. But yeah, you want to keep it under $5 per person, right? And that's a good logic because the goal is on the first encounter, second encounter, first date. The goal on the first encounter is to find out what kind of person you're dealing with, if you can. If your ability to communicate on the first encounter hasn't been built up yet, and you want to start figuring out what kind of person you are or what kind of person they are on the first date, then yeah, you can kind of do the more detailed questions on that first date over that $5 cup of coffee, right? Or $5 or the $1.50 soda or the $3 beer. But you want to make sure that you keep the total date should be $10 with tip, right? Now, I know that women, oh, that's broke. Well, I want to know who I'm investing in before I invest in it, right? So with that, she's all about the money, and you got to take me to a 5 star with your broke ass, blah blah blah. That's a gold digger. That or not necessarily a gold digger. That is a person with the mentality of getting financial compensation for their presence, which is the type of person that you're not going to be able to grow with because the entire time that you're dating that person is going to expect you to give them an allowance for their presence in the relationship. That person is going to get frustrated when you don't spend money on them. Instead, invest it. That person is going to get frustrated when you don't buy them expensive gifts. That frustration is going to be taken out on you. That resentment is going to be taken out on you. And until you reciprocate with something expensive to make them feel better, for them to stop treating you bad, you're going to continue to be treated bad, which is psychological and emotional manipulation. But that puts you in a position where that puts you in a position where um, you're not likely to you're not likely to succeed in that type of relationship because you understand that the satisfaction of this person is how much money you're spending just based on their ability to shoot down your idea of a $5 per person cup of coffee. Now, the method 4 is going to be hacking chemistry with uh, misattribution of arousal. This is a wild psychological phenomenon where people can mistaken the cause of their physical arousal. A famous study proved this in a scary suspension bridge. Men who met an attractive woman on the high wobbly bridge, which made their heart race, were way more likely to call her later than the guy who met her on solid stables bridges, right? They mistook their fear for attraction. Now you can use this. Plan an exciting date, go to an amusement park, see a scary movie, try rock climbing. This is what men used to do to win over girls back in the day in the early 90s. The adrenaline rush your date feels can get subconsciously transferred onto you, giving the chemistry a little artificial boost. Makes them like you more. The problem with that is, by utilizing this to your advantage, if the genuine chemistry does not manifest, once the high subsides, you find out that you weren't really interested in that person in the first place, or they find out they weren't really interested in you in the first place. So if you started with fundamental core strategy of getting to know them and building the chemistry based off of that attraction from solid ground, not the attraction from the unstable wobbly bridge, you could find yourself in a more stable relationship. But if you want to hook, line, and sinker and get that person off of the thrill, that's why the exciting first date is used in common practice. The exciting, thrilling, wowing first date, the exciting, thrilling, wowing second, third, fifth, 10th date, because men use this tactic to use her feelings for the date to be transferred onto her feelings for you. Statistically, we know that if she's only there for the activity, how she feels about the activity is not how she feels about you. And once the activity is over, how she feels about you will eventually come out. And you'll find yourself in a position where you regret all the money you wasted on the activity once her mood changes. You can't get that money back. Method 5 is going to be master status farming. Status is attractive, but bragging is a turnoff. The key is to frame your value, not just state it. Don't talk about how much money you make. Instead, tell a story that shows you're competent or driven. Talk about a tough project that you led at work or a long-term goal that you're saving for. You're showing, not telling. And letting them discover your high value is way more powerful. Women love a man of mystery. Okay? But full disclosure, if you're telling her about very pricey deals, if you're telling her about highly profitable returns on investments, when you're talking to her about the status symbol promotions and stuff to that effect, that's enough for them to calculate your assets. You want to talk strategic. You know, if you work at a restaurant, talk about the customer base. Don't talk about your income. You don't even have to name the job that you work at. You know, you could just clearly say, man, I was washing dishes the other day at my job. They know you're a dishwasher. Doesn't matter where. They just know that you wash dishes. That's it. If they determine that you broke based on that dynamic there, that's a wrap. I was having a conversation with a client and they gave me a project, or they gave me information that compromised the success of the project, and I was able to do a little bit of research and talk with some of my colleagues and resolve the conflict where we were able to still lock in that deal. That type of ability to be driven allows for her to be able to say, oh, well, he knows how to keep his company together. But you didn't say what you do for a living. You didn't say who you work for. You didn't say how much you make. You didn't talk about how much money was involved in the deal. You just made it seem like I'm the guy that gets stuff done. I'm the guy that fixes problems, right? Michael says, I do stuff. That's what I will go with. I do stuff. Yeah, I get around. You know, I connect with people. Yeah. Yeah. Method 6, you want to apply game theory to your profile. Don't try to appeal to everyone on a dating app. That just makes you generic. Target a niche. If you love mountaineering, lean into it. This will filter out most people, but strongly attract the ones who share your passion. Be specific and even a little polarizing. I'd rather spend a weekend in a tent than a five-star restaurant. This is an honest filter that works, you know, and timing is going to matter. Research suggests activity spikes on Sunday evenings. Being active then can boost your visibility. So if you got a dating app, you got a platform, Sunday afternoon, you start swiping on that app, you start seeing a lot of connections. Now, method 7, treat yourself as the primary asset. So you are the prize, regardless of what women tell you, fellas. This is the most important step because the ultimate way to win in the dating market is to increase your own fundamental value. This isn't about faking it. It is about genuinely becoming a better stock. So you must invest in yourself. Focus on your career, get your finances in order, go to the gym, go to therapy, work out your own attachment styles like Stevens did, start improving your attire so that you can present yourself in a more effective and professional fashion so that when you are approached, you will be approached by professionally attractive women. If you're a man out in the street in a suit, $300 shoes on that are dress shoes, you are not likely to be approached by gutter trash. Chicks that are interested in thugs and criminal behavior. You in a suit are only going to be approached by women that value a man in a suit. If a woman looks at you and she thinks you look weird, she's going to consider you a turn off to her. But the volatility that she might have brought to you, you miss that, which is a benefit. You weed out the toxic behavior by carrying yourself to a certain standard. The more you improve yourself, the more you become the high value asset that other smart investors are going to be looking for. Your goal shouldn't be to find a great partner. It should be to become the great partner. Looking at love through the lens of a market isn't about taking the romance out of it. It is about putting the intelligence into it. It's a shift that empowers you to stop being tossed around by fate and start being an attractive strategic investor in your own happiness. So, what do you guys think? Does this view of love make sense to you, or does it feel a little bit too cynical? What is the biggest market mistake that you see people making out there today? But I really want to hear from you guys, and I love all of your thoughts. Make sure that whenever you guys have the opportunity to comment, that you leave it in the comments somewhere either below or beside your screen. And I want to keep this conversation going. Your insight could be the hot tip that someone else needs to improve the way they invest in their romances. Far too long, we've been told that love is a mystery, uncontrollable force that you just fall into. But that view has left millions and millions and millions of people feeling lost and powerless. Now, the rest of reality is that relationships behave a lot more like a market than a myth. So they run on principles. And understanding these principles is the key to winning the hunt for a positive relationship. Now, we've seen that real value isn't found in a flimsy profile, but in the bedrock of a secure attachment style, the blue chip stocks of a healthy personality. We've learned that you can manage the emotional chaos of dating by understanding your own biases and by diversifying your life so that no one person is your entire portfolio of happiness. And we've seen how crucial transparency is. That open communication is what ensures a partnership is fundamentally sound. Embracing this Wall Street mindset isn't about being cynical, it is about being discerning. It is about respecting your own emotional capital enough to invest it wisely. It's about trading the short term thrill of a prom date for the long term compounding return of a true life partner. Not necessarily a wife, but a woman that is planning on not going anywhere long after you're dead, which is more important than a wife. Because a lot of women get married just so that they can get divorced. You're looking for a life partner. The love story that you're looking for doesn't have to be a gamble. By acting like a smart investor, you can take control and build a partnership that isn't just successful, it is priceless. And if you're not in a relationship right now, this is the most important time for you to pay attention to this, because staying single longer and curating your engagements allows for you to practice your communication skills and practice your ability to observe and practice the first 20 days of engagement with people so that you can weed out your own bad decision making before you weed out the people that you're making decisions on. You got to hit the ground running. It's trial by fire, it's baptismal by fire. There is no way that you're going to be able to guaranteedly succeed in finding the right one the first time around. When you went to buy your first car, you went to the lot thinking you were going to get something, and then you walked away with something else. When you went to apply for a job, you applied to a bunch of places and you ended up with something else. When you decided to go to school, you started going to certain places, but when you realized that you couldn't get into that 4 year until you went to the community, you went to the community first. Life doesn't always go according to plan. So the goal is for you to practice interacting with the opposite sex so that you can curate how you make decisions with people, strictly platonic, and weed out your dislikes from your decision making to accept and tolerate people that you ultimately dislike. And as you stand on your non negotiable expectations for behavior, you will find yourself more capable of leaning into a relationship that will give you the ability to find the right person. When you commit to a long term relationship, before you put physical interaction into the relationship, you have found a person that has reasonably met your expectations, which means you have to know what your expectations are. Once you put intimacy, physical intimacy into the relationship, it should only be with the one that you have guaranteed yourself to pursue long term. Now, this doesn't mean that for the guys that like to hit it and quit it and play the field that you can't go get laid randomly. Of course not. But the person that you're trying to lock it down with, one, you should be monogamous for that person, but two, you should be paying attention to the person, not the opportunity for sex. Because a lifelong partner, you're going to have that sex throughout the marriage. A short-term partner, you're going to have the sex for the temporary time they're going to be there. They can be there for a season or be there for the rest of your life. Sex is going to happen at some point. So if you take that out of the equation, what else are you getting out of this person? Same thing with the money. A girl dates a guy for the money, whether it's long-term money or for the moment money. He could be there for a season and pay for her a lavish lifestyle, and he could be there for the rest of her life, supporting her lifestyle. Either way, he's there for the money. So if you take the money out of the equation, what else does he bring to the table for you? Once you start paying attention to the characteristics and personality traits of the person across the table from you, you start determining how well the two of you will get along. Y'all do not have to be a mirror image of each other, because opposites do attract. But you've got to be able to work with well the type of person that you're meshing with before she spreads her legs and before he opens his mouth. That's the dynamic. By the time she's ready to sleep with you, she's ready to marry you. By the time you're willing to pay for her, you're willing to pursue the marriage with her. Otherwise, you're putting your money in the wrong spot and she's putting her virtue in the wrong spot. Not a lot of people think about it like this. Now, ironically, I told you I was short, but we still met. We met the normal standard timeline. I don't understand how I get a chance. I got a theme, I guess. I don't know. Sometimes I talk fast, sometimes I talk slow. I don't know, but we managed to get our standard 2 hours in. So that's all I have for you guys for the night. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the 30-year plan, which is far and above the 20-year plan. So we're going to be going in deep about this particular criteria. We're going to be curating this for the sake of advanced experience. So I'm going to be giving you guys some information that might be similar to our 20-year plan discussion, but more advanced, detailed information on how to go about doing this. And throughout the week, because I got a lot of stuff that I just got dropped onto my lap, a lot of projects that just got dropped onto my lap that interfered with my ability to add more things to the membership this week. But I'm going to be trying to make sure that I update as many things as possible over the weekend and over the next week to add to all of the things that I wanted to make sure that I got done for the next couple of weeks to make sure that we still have the reoccurring information that I said I was going to give to you guys. So you just got to stay tuned. It's going to pop up eventually because I curate so much information and I give you the how-to walkthroughs and I put these things into the membership usually all at once, but I try to space it out and schedule it to release so that you guys can get something every day. So I think I have like 10 or 15 things that I was supposed to put up there. And that's like 2 weeks worth of posting plus all of the stock information and all of the bond information, gold and silver information, Bitcoin ideas. Don't forget to do your taxes. And so many other things that I got to put up there that there's like 30 days worth of information I haven't updated yet. So for the whole month of April, everything I haven't put up there over the past 2 weeks should be spread across the whole month of April. So it's coming. You just got to give me a little bit of time. With that being said, I want to thank you guys. I want to start off by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I keep asking you, ladies, and I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. But, fellas, I give you all this information to make you higher value men. You should have learned by now over the past 6 months, over the past year, that the things that are inside of your control, if you focus on that and then change the things that you do not like, you have more time and more energy and a higher standard of living, a higher value and happiness in life where you can then navigate around the things that you can't control, right? And then, ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can take this information and utilize it to make yourselves higher value. As I've said before, if you're prioritizing a long-term goal, a long-term plan, FX Trader said that earlier today, that if you prioritize your plan, a person that phases out of your life because they do not mesh with your plan, you are not going to notice that they're gone. But a person that benefits your plan will never leave your side. Okay? They become anchored into your plan because your plan benefits them the same way their plan benefits you. And if you keep your eyes and ears open for a person that benefits your plan, not a person that finances your plan, a person that benefits your plan, you are then able to find the type of person where you can get there twice as fast because 2 people can hit $1 million faster than 1. But we're going to be talking about tomorrow about how it's more of a prioritization to figure out where your bottom line needs to be versus exactly what the fixed number is, because $1 million is $1 million. But if you generate reoccurring and revolving income, you're likely to be more successful than what you would have been had you only fallen on the ideology of I need $1 million man, because you can spend $1 million in less than a year. But what you can't do is fail at your standard of living if you've built a revolving income and you live inside of that revolving income, not exceeding that revolving income. So I want you guys to take that in consideration. Special shout out to Steven, special shout out to Jesse. I really appreciate that $2 that Jesse sent me today. It really helps the bottom line. FX Trader, Michael, I really appreciate you guys for your comments and your wisdom on tonight's show. Then I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield